fresh out the oven, it's Cinema Bums. I'm Emmett.
And I'm Wade.
Cinema Bums is a podcast where we watch through every single movie in popular film franchises, one each week, to try and track how the storytelling changes over time. Today, we are returning to our miniseries, What is All This Scream Time Doing to Our Children?, covering every film in the Scream series. We will fully spoil today's film, but we will not spoil any future entries in the series because there are currently none. Today, we are doing a timely thing, which is so rare for us and so wonderful for us to get to do. Wade, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, other than having to hear the pod name, miniseries name again, which I had hoped to never do. But I'm good. I feel very rejuvenated. This is the first episode we're recording in 2022. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
And I feel rejuvenated by that and by this movie. So I'm excited to talk about it. And how are you?
I am doing well. Also, Happy New Year to you and to all our listeners. And today I'm doing especially well because we're honored to have a special guest returning to the pod. Please welcome Jonathan Thor Rains.
I'll be right back. That's a Scream joke, guys.
Ah!
Was that your Scream joke, Emmett?
Yeah, that was my Scream joke.
This is beautiful.
Did y'all think there was enough screaming in this Scream?
Not nearly enough. I'm just kidding.
Not nearly enough screaming.
No. 2 stars.
2 stars on 2 out of 5 on the Screams.
Well, how's it going, Thor? Welcome back. Thanks for being back. We're a little out of practice. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I was telling Wade earlier that I'm snowed in today, and I was planning on going to see the movie for a 5th time today.
Holy hell.
But I can't, so it sucks, right? So here we are. But we get to talk about it, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Almost as good. Almost as good.
Yeah.
Truly, wow. It has only snowed here in New York once, and it didn't stick.
Ever in the history of New York?
That's correct.
Wow.
That is
and
correct.
You were there to see it, Wade?
Yeah, I was.
Incredible.
What a king.
Well, most people
Legendary.
don't know this, but New York City was actually founded October 16th, 2021, when I moved here. So I can only speak to it, to its full history.
We are truly living in a simulation. This is the Matrix. Speaking of other 90s properties that got rejuvenated this year.
Yeah, other legacy sequels, other requels, as this movie would have us believe.
Yeah, it's a reboot cool or something.
They could have just called it like a C-boot or something, you know? A sequel. I wonder if they went through a bunch of terms before they settled on the obvious, better one, requel.
Yeah, I think it would have had to be rated X if they called it a sequel. So they couldn't do that.
That's fair.
How about we start with Flop or Bop general impressions?
Yeah.
Straight out the gate. And then we can do the stats and sort of work through the movie. You can lead us through the movie and we'll talk about it like that.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Sounds good.
It's a bop.
Wade, flop or bop?
A bop. Emmett, flop or bop?
I would say it's a bop. Guys, reasons why it's a bop for you.
I have a whole list of reasons
kick
why.
us off,
but
Thor. What were
lay
your
us.
immediate reactions to this movie? What do you think? A new Scream.
one, it's super exciting to have grown up with all of them. So like this one to be like 25 years after the first one is really cool because I've like kind of grew up with all these characters. Like the surviving characters obviously were kind of like my babysitters when I was growing up because I watched all these movies all the time. So it was cool just to see them on screen again, but I also liked all of the new characters too. I thought that they were, well, most of the newer ones were really compelling, and I thought like the commentary on horror movies in general was really interesting. They're always very interesting, but I thought this one was, especially all the references to like toxic fans, I thought that was funny. And the connections to like Rian Johnson and Star Wars and all that was really interesting. And also the acting was really great in this. Not that they weren't in the other ones, but like the returning characters were really cool. There's a lot of emotional stuff. It was a lot of stuff at stake. And I'm interested to see where it continues to go if they choose to continue with it. It's a bop.
Wade, what were your thoughts on it?
I was really kind of like blown away by it. I would say I expected it to be good. Maybe didn't have massively high expectations, but I've liked all of these movies, and I really liked Ready or Not, the last movie by these directors. And yeah, I mean, when this movie started with the character of Tara saying things that I have said on this podcast about loving It Follows and not liking schlocky jump scare horror, I immediately felt called out. And yeah, and then we go from that to like a SZA DJ Khaled song. I just thought it was like so good the whole way through. I was not expecting it to be a movie about the Star Wars sequels, but that made me love it even more in like a truly bizarre turn for this series. And yeah, I do agree with Thor that I think a lot of the acting is really good. I think the directing is good. I think it is much more Scream 5 than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it might be a little bit more like the Halloween or the Candyman or the things it's parodying in some ways, like more of a reboot. But I think it really is like much more connected, especially to the sequels, than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect. I have some criticisms, mostly just that I feel like it's maybe doing a lot, and some elements suffer a little bit because of that. Emmett, what was your reaction to a new Scream?
I got in the movie theater and I was like, uh-oh, this is a movie that's actually going to scare me. And then I was like, this is really exciting, because I've been watching all those like dumb. Thor, I did a whole watch through of all the Friday the 13th and all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Nice.
And those were a lot of fun, but not often very frightening. Coming back and watching this after all of that was like a shock.
His visit to Manhattan didn't scare you?
No, I loved it. But it was not frightening.
It's so good. I love that movie. It's so stupid.
It's so dumb. I was on the edge of my seat, and because I knew, like, the thing about Scream movies is that they do not care. They will kill people that you love. I mean, like, killing off Randy in the second one.
Cotton in part 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I think it's just, like, it's a hallmark of the series that, like, people that you think are safe could die. And pretty much anyone who you have any doubt about will die. The part where Jessica Chastain saved the world
Oh, no.
was really compelling. I could always tell in Bryce Dallas Howard's eyes when she's really feeling it.
This was my biggest fear about the movie. Not that you would go see the wrong movie, Emmett, but that they put it out in January, which normally is like a dumping ground for movies. Like
the 355.
Yeah, how bad January is that the only other movie that has come out this year was the Simon Kinberg follow-up to Dark Phoenix. And this is following that up, and I was like, okay, Scream. I will go in the winter trek to the theater and hope there's something good in this month. And there was.
I think this movie is wonderful because it is like you said, Wade, so much in conversation with like the Star Wars sequels, but is also like the killers are pretty much the exact same setup as from the original movie. Like weird possessive boyfriend and like the kind of weird kid of the group. Even in the dynamic of like how it's set up, it's like very similar. And it like gives you the hints early on that that's what's going on, and then spends the rest of the plot trying to mislead you into doing other things. And I thought it was really clever when they're like, these movies are whodunits. And I was like, oh yeah, they are all whodunits. Like that's what sometimes if like the killer's revealed too early, or like kind of what gets boring about ultimately both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street is, you know who the killer is and you know exactly what their motives are right off the bat. And so you pretty much know these kids are all going to die. But in Scream, there's like more reasoning to what's going on. Like it always makes sense in the end why people were doing what they were doing. Even if it's for like kind of crazy reasons, it does have like a plot logic to it.
Yeah.
I think that it makes them really satisfying. And this one especially, because I think their reason is very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Something we didn't talk a lot about in the initial series that I think also makes them really satisfying is that they're all self-contained.
Hmm.
Like, none of these, including this one, even including, like, none of them end with setup for a sequel. They all just end with, like, the mystery has been solved, everything is good now.
Yeah.
And then you'll pick back up whenever there is another mystery to solve. But I feel like that makes them feel more complete than other long-running series.
For sure.
And I think that it speaks to the writers and now directors. They're not necessarily reaching for a sequel. They just want to tell like the story that they want to tell at that time and not try to set it up all the time for a sequel, which I think is admirable because, most people are going to want a sequel because it makes money and like exposure and all that sort of thing. But they just are interested in telling the story they want to tell and really how it connects to movies at the time that the movie is made, which I think is really cool. Like if you track like the arcs of all the other ones, like especially Scream 4, I watched that last night before I went and saw the fifth one again.
Oh, wow.
It's such a product of 2011 and like the actors that are in it and the movies and stuff they talk about, and that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted to tell that's what the point is, and I thought that was cool. And it, again, like Emmett was saying, it ended and there didn't need to be another one if they didn't want there to be, and it was still a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, and I think this one is helped a lot by Scream 4 too, because that's already covered some of the stuff you think you might see in like a legacy Scream. Like that one is very much about going back to Woodsboro, about the anniversary of the original. That one is like putting modern technology and social media and everything into the Scream world for the first time. And so I think with some of that stuff out of the way, it paved the way for like a less obvious sequel in this one.
I think the fourth one was maybe like a tad ahead of its time.
Oh yeah.
As far as the reasoning behind Jill and Charlie wanting to become famous on social media and stuff like that, that wasn't as much of a thing in 2011 as it is now, or even like a few years after that movie came out. Even though like recording with the webcam and everything, all the murders really, like you said, flowed into this one because they're wanting to provide source material for a new movie, whereas in like the fourth one they were making their own movie, so they kind of go hand in hand, and it really kind of sets the stage for motive for the fifth one.
Yeah, and I feel like that one also maybe more tried to like have an analog to each of the characters from the original, like new Sydney, new Dewey, and then this one you have like different characters in a different way.
Yeah.
Two things that I think are interesting about this series as a whole is like the evolution of technology as a major element of these movies, because like it's a cell phone and like a weird little voice changer that they're using in the first one, as like it gets more advanced as it goes throughout. So there's the point in the third one where they've got the wacky voice changer that can be anybody's voice, wearing bulletproof armor and stuff like that. For the fourth one, for that to be like streaming and social media. In this one, we get it briefly with like the house, the safe locks on the house, and like the location tracking on the phones and stuff. And I think that's all like every time the phone rings in one of these movies, something bad is about to happen. It's like when it starts with the phone ringing, that's like an immediate tell to the entire audience that like something bad is coming. I think that's a really interesting thing. And the other thing that I think is really interesting is that this movie, they talk about it in this movie too. They say that there is no Michael Myers of the Stab series. It's always a different killer. But because it's always the same mask in like some larger way, it always is the same killer. So it's like they get to have it kind of both ways, where it is always Ghostface.
And the voice.
Always the same voice, but it could be anyone, which is a really cool way to have it, both with the iconic villain that you get from Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, but also to have like the kind of more unnerving part of the slasher, which is that it could be anyone.
I felt like Ghostface was like sinister in this one.
Yeah.
In a way that
sure.
Maybe in none of the others he has been. Like, they really make him like scary and like build up sort of the aura around him.
And they took away a lot of the, like how bumbling sometimes he would be, like he tripped a lot or would like fall over things, and That I don't think of his own accord did not happen in this one. I mean, he'd get like pushed or something like that, but he never was just like falling. Like in the second one, he just randomly falls over like a recliner while he's chasing Sydney and that sort of thing. It really added to the idea that no one can really get away from him. No one's safe in that regard because, you know, a lot of people fought back and they did not win.
Hmm.
This one's probably the most, I wouldn't necessarily say the bloodiest because I always think back to that scene in part 4 with the
Yeah.
friend across the street. They see her get killed. But this one was definitely like the most like savage. Like there was just so
Yeah.
much like messy stabbing. Like it was like he was just like angry the entire movie and was just like stabbing people like 7, 8 times in a row really fast. And I was like, this is just, it was a lot.
Even the way the ghost faces get killed in the end, I think, is more brutal.
Yeah.
Like all like 4 kills are way more brutal.
It was insane.
Is that the same girl from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood who gets the brutal death in that?
Yes.
Yes, where she also gets set on fire.
Damn.
That was one of the most satisfying things I think I've ever seen in a movie. And this one. When the whole thing when Sydney was like, you want to do the honors? Or, no, Gail said, you want to do the honors? And Sydney was like, all yours. So she was like, pew. Incredible. And then she caught on fire.
That's so cool.
I love it.
I've been thinking a lot about, like, over winter break, a lot about how we are maybe at a point in these, like, big blockbuster movies, which I would consider this one of, where we have, like, recognized and are maybe a little tired of a lot of the tropes of the last 10 years. Like, not just the Legacy sequel, but, like, the thing this movie talks about, like, the things the Legacy sequels do. Like, how they bring back the characters, or, like, certain plays that are in all of these. And I feel like this was, like, advanced by the pandemic of basically, like, not having new movies for a year and a half. That we have, like, recognized a lot of these, but are not at a place yet where we have sort of found something new to replace them. Like, it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of fresh movies giving us something different. Mm-hmm. And I felt like this movie really, like, found ways to include those, like, get hype, really exciting, big moments, while not sort of pandering in the same way, or just giving us the thing that was, like, really fresh in 2015, and now feels like we've gotten in every movie since, you know?
I thought that was cool. It didn't rely on all of that. And like how you were saying, it was a self-contained story. A casual moviegoer who never seen the other ones could go and enjoy it, maybe not have as much of a connection, especially to like the legacy characters as much. But there was so much other things that were included in it that would make someone who's a big fan of the franchise, like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like, oh, I recognize that, or whatever. Mm-hmm. That was like a really fun thing for me to see all of that. But it didn't feel like it was talking down to anyone or relying solely on nostalgia, which I feel like a lot of reboot kind of properties do. It like had like one foot in that, and then that one foot was like, let's pull it forward in a different direction. And I thought they did a really great job of balancing those two things.
Yeah, and I felt like it even kicked into high gear once it goes like full legacy in the third act.
Yes.
Which a lot of these, like Ghostbusters last year was one I was really looking forward to, and that is like its own movie, and then it like becomes the original Ghostbusters in the third act and kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
But this one I felt like got a lot stronger, even from like the good place it already was in, when they just really go for it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what that is they don't try to go bigger in the house at the end. Like, there's a huge party, and they're like, no, we're getting the party out of here. It's not going to be more kills. It's just going to be more danger for the people you care about. And it just, like, ups the stakes. They're alone in the house. I think it's very Skyfall. I think it's, like, a really interesting, like, all right, we're going to, like, close it in and make this last act personal. As I was walking into the theaters, there was a poster here that said the killer is on this poster, and it just like had all the principal characters on it. And I was like, damn right it is. It's like, of course, like, obviously, like, you know that. You know it's not going to be like some random. Yeah. You know it's always someone you know. And yeah.
See, I thought that just because Ghostface is on the poster, like the mask, and I was like, oh yeah, the killer is on the poster, and so I thought it was a misdirection, and it was going to be a character that we know, but is not in the movie the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
like a past character or something. Because so many people, there's all these theories that Stu was alive and
Right.
he's gonna come back. And I made some notes about like how there are lots of little references to Stu throughout the movie, and I think that that was the director's way of being like, haha, he's not in the movie, but we hear everyone talking so much about Stu wanting to come back. But yeah, that's what I thought. That poster was so smart because I was like, oh yeah, duh, the killer is on the poster. His mask is right there. And then I was like, oh wait, the killer really is on the poster. It's one of the characters that are on the poster, or two of the characters that are on the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. The marketing for this movie was A+.
Oh man, and I really felt, having seen the trailer, that like they did a good job of playing with our expectations even in the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know we're gonna walk through the story in a minute, but like it was kind of in the air that one of the characters, a big character, was going to die, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's seems to be a big action scene in the hospital with them in the trailer. So when we got to that part, I was kind of like bracing myself. And then they like make it all the way through that scene, and you're like, oh, okay. I guess like the trailer did not set me up for what I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then like they go back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that with the opening scene too, which we saw a lot of in the trailer. Like,
Yeah.
they did a good job of teasing little elements, and then that didn't spoil the whole scene when you were watching the movie.
Well, because I totally thought that she was a goner in the first scene. I thought it was a classic from the original. And when they did that, when they kept her alive, but like in a weakened condition for the rest of the movie, so that she is basically has the plot arc of Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2. She's got that, like she's in the hospital with the killer most of the movie. So that like there's a very alarming thing going on there. And it's like you don't ever get the catharsis of that first kill and being like, oh, that was tragic, but that person, you know, like they're dead now, so at least they're not like running from the killer. She's running from the killer the whole movie, and in some way they like extends the anxiety of the first scene throughout the entire film. Because like the very first victim is like still running.
Is this the first time they haven't killed the victim in the opening scene?
Yep.
I think so, right?
It opened with quite a bang, and then 5 seconds later they're like, she survived. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder what happens immediately when we cut to the title, when they're like going in for the death blow.
Yeah.
You hear the police there, but just like, do they run away, or is it like a light
stabbing?
a light stabbing?
I don't remember who said it. She said it, or some other character said she was stabbed 7 times.
Yeah,
but we only saw 3.
Damn. So she got sliced up. Damn.
Yeah.
And in the hand too.
Yeah.
It's awful.
I've got to say the most bloody parts of Ready or Not also involve things going through people's hands.
That's
which I
true.
rewatched right before seeing this. And so for that to be like the first big thing that happens in the movie, I felt like was a little...
That movie is also excellent. I love that movie.
little tribute to that. Yeah, I love that movie.
This made me feel like I could handle Ready or Not.
And that you
You
gotta
could-
watch it.
you
It's
could.
so good.
It's really good. And there's a lot of the DNA of this.
Yes. It leans into the dark comedy, I would say, a lot more than that Scream did, but it's very good. Very entertaining.
Okay, should we...
All right. Yeah, let's hear the stats on this, Wade.
Okay. Scream, just called Scream. It was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who are the founders of the production company Radio Silence. On some of their stuff, they're even credited as Radio Silence. But on this, and I think on Ready or Not too, they're credited by their real names. Two guys, they've done like some anthology and short film stuff. But in terms of full movies, this is their third, after Devil's Due and Ready or Not, which came out in 2019.
I didn't know they did Devil's Due.
Have you seen that?
Huh?
I haven't seen it. How was it?
It's pretty good. It's a found footage movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is, I've got to say, the first one not to be directed by the late, great Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts about the directing while we're here, about how they carry on the torch of Wes's very unique style?
I think they create tension in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Like by cutting between things and like flashing away from stuff. Whereas Wes would build these incredibly tense set piece sequences in a house. I think the only thing that comes close to that in this is the scene where they keep teasing that Ghostface is going to be behind the fridge or behind the closet. And then finally he is there.
Oof.
I think that it's different than
Mm-hmm.
the long scenes in the house in the first, especially in the first and second Screams, I would say.
Yeah, it's a lot more, I would say, like, suspenseful with like Wes Craven's direction, and I feel like this one was a little bit more like tense. It's very similar to like being suspenseful. There was just like a little difference to it. It was a little bit more like intimate in a way. Like there was just like a lot of like closeness in like some of the shots, and like how close like the killer would get to his victims like all the time, and like almost play with them and like kind of draw out a lot of the attacks too. Wes Craven's was a lot more like tension, suspense building. There's like so many sequences throughout all the movies. Like there's like 2 or 3 like prolonged sequences of like suspense building in a lot of Wes Craven's. And I agree with what Emmett said. Like this one had really like that one long sequence with Wes and Judy Hicks, which was very similar to that. But then the other scenes I feel like took in a good but different direction.
Yeah, I think that scene is the high point from the directing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's totally like respectfully directed. Like, there's nothing in it that looks bad to me, but it definitely isn't as showy as the Wes Craven style.
Yeah.
Where you're really thinking about the directing as you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I do want to say it does look really good. I think all of the kills, especially, like, it certainly seems like almost everything is done practically in this, and there isn't really any awkward CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that knife in the neck is freaking messed up.
Yeah. And the one through the cheeks at the end, too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, that one is gruesome, but at least that one, it just, like, happens and then it's over, but they really, like, hang out with the knife in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hospital at night sequence, like when all the lights went out in the hallway, that was visually very cool.
Yeah.
The way that was lit, Tara's character in the wheelchair, like, trying her very best to get away, and he's just, like, slowly advancing on her. That was really cool.
I think that is like a really good writing too, to the point where like we love this character at this point. She is at her worst point. It's like she's been attacked twice now, right? Already. And he's creeping through the hospital. She's like wheeling along and leaving a trail of blood with the wheelchair. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I would say probably never go to a private floor of a hospital.
Yeah,
especially in Woodsboro. We've already seen that hospital sucks in part 4, so, like, why would you go there?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the writing. I do think the writing is a really standout. This is the second one after Scream 3 not to be written by Kevin Williamson, who was an executive producer. But it was written together by Guy Busick, who wrote Ready or Not, and James Vanderbilt, who's got a ton of stuff, including the Zodiac movie for David Fincher and the Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield movies.
Wow.
The score is by Brian Tyler, who also did Ready or Not. This is the first one not to have any music from Marco Beltrami. Well, I guess you've got the old scores and stuff, but the first one where the new music is not composed by Beltrami. Runs 1 hour and 54 minutes, released January 14th, 2020 by Paramount Pictures, because the Dimension Films imprint is no more. It was released 25 years and 25 days after the original release on December 20th, 1996. And a budget, I thought this was really interesting, a budget of $25 million, which is the same budget as Scream 2, but less than the $40 million that 3 and 4 both had.
Wow.
Which was also 2 decades ago. So, that's even less money than it was.
Yeah.
But it seems to be doing well. We're recording this on Sunday, and I just read that the first 3 days had a $30 million box office. So it's already made back its budget, and is the first movie to be number 1 other than Spider-Man since Spider-Man came out.
Wow.
So a pretty big deal.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we got. And good reviews. It's the 3rd highest rated on Metacritic after the first 2. Just sort of slightly underneath those. So seems like people are liking it, which I'm glad about. Emmett, you want to walk us through it?
Okay, Scream, which is the 5th Scream movie, not to be confused with Scream, which is also the first Scream movie, is a movie about two sisters from Woodsboro, the original place of the disastrous happenings of the first Scream movie. But neither of them seem to know very much about their town's brutal past. They're just hanging out, being fun girls, and one of them really likes horror movies, the younger one who still lives there. They're estranged from each other, but when the young girl is brutally attacked by somebody wearing the ghost face mask, her sister, the older sister, Sam, comes back to care for her younger sister with her creepy boyfriend, played by maybe Iceman from X-Men, but maybe not. I couldn't ever be 100% sure either way. I was like, Bobby, is that you?
That's Dennis Quaid's son.
Yeah, and Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't know. So that's Jack Quaid.
Yeah,
Wow.
Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid seemingly playing past and future guest Zach Stoles. My opinion. I did not think he was creepy, so I'm sorry that I haven't said that before I said that joke. He has like almost all of the comedic relief and is sort of like a very affable, liked by everyone sort of audience surrogate character.
Yeah.
It was very interesting because the first time I saw it, like everything he said killed. And people were like so into him, which set it up in a fun way. But then the second time I saw it, I feel like people were not very amused by him, started looking askance at him, which is also an interesting way to view the movie.
Yeah, I was scant looking at him, but I also watched this with almost zero other audience members in the big empty theater. So I was looking askance at everybody.
Yeah, I think to what Thor said about Stu, there had been those rumors that he was going to come back. The actor was just in He's All That on Netflix, so like he's back doing things.
He's back, baby.
And when the first question on the phone was, she says the killer is Billy Loomis, and they're like, no, there was Stu as well. That's when I was like, oh, it's Stu. He is behind this.
Yeah.
But no, they're just playing. I guess they are also in the movie kind of setting up the house.
Yes.
Which becomes important.
There's the part when who is it? Richie is on YouTube and he's watching that video of those people reviewing Stab 8.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it yesterday, on the right hand side, all those thumbnails, the last one says, I don't remember the exact wording, but it says, is it possible that Stu Macher could still be alive? There was a video titled that.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And there was one about Kirby.
Yes.
Where's the Kirby thing?
It's on that same list of thumbnails. It's the top one, and it has a picture of Hayden Panettiere, and it says "Interview with Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed."
Whoa!
Yeah, she is thanked in the credits.
She's still out there. She's still alive.
Damn,
which is very cool.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get a little cameo from her at some point if they make another one.
I feel like they've got to make another one, but we can get on to our theories for that in just a second.
Yes.
Through a series of stabbings, the killer creeps closer to the young lady. What's her name in the hospital?
Tara.
Oh, it's Tara and Sam. So Sam...
Yes.
Sam
Carpenter.
Like, Sam Carpenter is like, look, we have to get the hell out of Dodge. My ghost daddy, Billy Loomis, is telling me that we have to get out of town. Otherwise, I might have to kill someone. Which is also great, because then you're like, wait, is it her? Is she secretly trying to do it the whole time, trying to kill her own sister and everyone around her? It looks like she wants to at points. You know, this is a really interesting new trope of the person who wants to be a serial murderer and then doesn't, and then other people start murdering people around them, and they're like, I must. It's my chosen calling. And then she goes berserk and kills him.
Incredible.
How did you guys feel about this revelation that... Because I feel like we talked about this last time, because we knew everyone was connected to the past cast.
Uh-huh.
But, like, they all died when they were 17, so it's hard for them to be kids. But Sam is. She is the child of Billy Loomis with a big question mark of a mother. How did you guys feel about like that element and like all the footage of the original Skeet Ulrich back in there?
Like when it first showed up, I was like, oh, I did not know he was gonna be in this movie, and I was like, dang, they really tried to de-age this guy. Yeah, it does open up another can of worms, like, well, who is her mom? And I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because her dad is Billy Loomis, so, like, her mom's kind of irrelevant to the plot. Unless, I mean, there's no other character that I can think of from the first movie that it could be. So I guess it's just some unknown person. I mean, they said her name was Christina.
Oh, did they?
At the beginning of the movie, when he calls Tara, he says, "Can I speak to Christina?" And she's like, "No." So, I mean, that's the only thing that you know about her. At first, I did not like it when I first saw Billy, because I was like, are they about to say she is Sydney's daughter and Sydney gave her up? Because that just goes against... I just don't think Sydney would do that. And also, she would have... I don't know, we would have known about that by now. I feel like, you know, it just seems weird to... If she had been her mom, you know what I mean? I'm glad they didn't go that route.
The actress is also Mexican, which would be hard for Sydney.
Exactly. So I was like... It's like, what's happening?
Melissa Barrera.
So I'm glad they went not that way, and she's Billy's daughter, and then that lends like maybe she's taking this medication, maybe she has snapped or something. So I thought it was cool. It was an interesting direction to take it. And, you know, some people probably won't like stuff like that, but I liked it. I thought it was cool.
And it ties into her whole Rey arc from spoilers for Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, where she has like her demon, her ogre father, who is like speaking to her through a psychic connection. Pretty compelling stuff, honestly. So she's like, okay, we have to research the past if we want to survive our future here. So they go back to Woodsboro and they find the one person they know who lived through all 4 of the movies after getting stabbed several times. Our old favorite, Dewey Riley, played by a truly splendid David Arquette in this one.
He's so good in this one.
Playing the exact arc of Han Solo from The Force Awakens. He at first resists being drawn in, and then he's like, all right, you crazy kids, we gotta go do this. I'm not gonna watch you get stabbed just like my sister and literally all of my friends and everyone I ever knew.
And he still doesn't talk about the sister, but he does have her ashes, presumably, on his little desk, which I thought was a lovely nod. There's a lot of little ties in here, like he mentions his limp, which is a thing that comes and goes. We see Gail on TV talking about the bangs, which I thought was wonderful. There's a lot of little things like that.
We also have Dewey make... To me, the best acting in this entire film is this phone call between Dewey and Sydney.
Yeah, that was good.
Whatever the weird chemistry between them that has been going strong in a single scene in each of the 5 movies, it is there. It is there even over the phone. There is like some beautiful tenderness. There's like some real understanding. Yeah, it's gorgeous. The only thing that could bring her back to Woodsboro is Dewey, and it's too late. Quite sad.
Speaking of gorgeous, I just have to say, and I'm sorry that I have to do it, but Neve Campbell looks unbelievable in this movie.
Bro, she's 48 in real life.
Unbelievable.
She looks so good.
She has never looked better. And she's looked great in all of these. But like when it starts with her in the Nike branded product placement jogwear, I mean, incredible.
Did you guys catch who she was married to?
Wait,
I did, baby. I looked it up.
He said, how's Mark doing? Mark Kincaid from Part 3, the detective. Patrick Dempsey.
It is!
Yeah.
So she's with... Oh my God.
She's with McDreamy!
She's with McDreamy. No wonder she's looking so happy and good. Wow.
I loved that. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I was really happy about that. Emma, how did it feel seeing Gail Weathers again after all these years? I know she's your number 1.
She is my number 1.
Yes, sir. Love her.
Her arc ended in the 3rd movie and they haven't known what to do with her since. Is how I feel about that. They were like confused about what she was like kind of hanging around in the 4th movie and in this one. She does get the badass moment at the end. I don't know. I think there's some sweet stuff between her and Dewey, as always, that I really like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this movie kind of leaves the two of them, Sydney and Gail, out a little bit with its focus on the Dewey, because he's the one who's still there in Woodsboro.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing them in at the end is pretty cool and hype, but I think it kind of undercuts. I mean, like, it undersells like what they're going through. But I don't think it necessarily needs to like go into all of that because it is about the new cast. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Gail gets the shortest end of the stick of any of them. Which is a shame because I do think she sells every moment she has in this movie.
Yeah.
Comedic and the exciting and the sad in a big way. So I wish she had a little bit. But honestly, that's almost all of my criticisms about this movie are just wishing that we had a little bit more of some of the new characters or some of the old characters. Like, it's an interesting angle into this because you've got the legacy characters who come in at the end. Then you've got a new cast of high schoolers, which is what 4 did as well. But then, like, neither of those are the main character. I guess kind of because they have to line the age up for how old Sam would be if she was Billy's daughter. So then it's like this interesting angle where, like, your protagonist is someone coming back to this town in the middle of these two different groups. I mean, I think it works. I just think it's a lot for any one movie to juggle.
Yeah. It is super interesting. The actress playing Sam is, I think, like 31 or 32. And I think we can assume that her character would have to be about that same age, right? To be...
She says that she's 23, I think.
23?
Wouldn't she have to be... She'd have to be, like, 25.
If the first movie came out in 96, we have to assume it happened that she was born either right before or, like, very soon after the first movie. So I guess, what would that make her? 20?
She'd be 25.
They say that she's only 5 years older than Tara, though.
And she's 8.
Oh, weird.
Oh, that's true.
And she's in high school. So I feel like they've smudged the lines a little bit to try and make that all fit.
I guess she doesn't necessarily have to be in high school because we never see her in high school. We just see her in the hospital. So I don't know. Maybe she is not in high school and like her friends are seniors or something. I don't know.
I think maybe I got 23 from because she said that it's been 5 years since she left town, and she left town like on her 18th birthday.
Okay, so maybe this movie doesn't take place in 2021.
Well, that's fair because it wasn't originally supposed to. It got delayed from the pandemic, so
that's fair.
Maybe it takes place in 2018 or 2019 instead. All of that timeline digression aside, I think it's interesting to see a character kind of like caught between the generations of like what, like you said, of the two casts of this movie. That person is like close to our age and is also like the kind of person who would have grown up watching Scream movies since the 90s. And like they're caught in between the wave of people who actually like experienced the stuff and a wave of people who are like scoffing at the stuff and like think it's a big joke. And she's like in this painful middle ground. And that's like immediately realized in her own life by the fact that like it's her ghost father talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, she's living in Modesto. She is working at a bowling alley.
Mm-hmm. She's a resonant hero for our times, I would say.
One thing I didn't really like, which is a very small detail, is her line about like finding out the truth and then doing a ton of drugs. I feel like that plays into certain cultural stereotypes that we see in Hollywood movies a lot. And then balanced with that is the fact that it is not really paid off in any way. That is not a part of her character or like relevant to her arc in any way they would make in the movie. Other than that, she just kind of used to make trouble, and that's why like Judy Hicks doesn't like her.
Yeah, well, they also need a reason for her to have been estranged from her family, or for her to have left her sister for it to have been okay. But I was still reading all of that, and sometimes I can't tell in these movies. Sometimes I honestly can't tell. Because sometimes there'll be lines like that, and the actor will deliver them in such a way that it's ambiguous whether it's true or not.
Mm.
And I think that is like a technique that is used to unsettle the audience to be like, do we fully believe this character or not? But I also think sometimes it can like confuse the plot a little, or like confuse, like if you like go back and pick the lines apart, it can confuse it a little bit. Because at that part in the movie, as I remember it, I was still thinking she's like kind of a psychopath, and she is a psychopath, and like whether or not she chooses to act on those impulses, like she's got a different sort of wiring going on up top. And I thought that she was like manipulating her sister into going with her, or like I still thought that she could be the killer, but like all of what she was saying was just excuse and lie, not necessarily like the real truth of what she was doing. And that the easiest thing for her to say to make her sister believe her is like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, like I did a bunch of drugs, I was really messed up, like take me back, which I think some of this movie is playing with in an interesting way.
I didn't think about that. That's interesting.
Where are we in the plot? Eventually they make it to a house.
Well, you skipped the big scene in the middle.
Oh, what big
The
scene
hospital.
in the middle?
You skipped the hospital scene.
Oh, yeah. Which part of it should I describe? Which part of it do we need to get into? Oh, the part where
one of the main characters dies for the first time in like 3 movies. Well, Judy Hicks dies before this too. Who's a returning character.
Sweet
in a
Judy.
cool sequence. I didn't really care too much for her or her kid in this one, but
yeah,
I felt so bad for her.
She really got done
She got
dirty.
got.
She got. That was a great sequence too. That whole sequence from when it starts.
I don't know that actor, but I have heard that he is like very popular on TikTok and Tumblr and stuff. He's in 13 Reasons Why.
He looks a lot like another actor from our youth, who I can't remember the name of.
Some people have said that it is sort of an analog to the Drew Barrymore kill, in that he is like he was heavy in the marketing and is a big teen star getting a shower scene.
He's blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked that he went out. I thought he was going to make it to the next one.
So yeah, we're in the hospital. They're there to help Tara escape because they figured out that the ghost face is probably there trying to attack her. They go and manage to escape, but then Dewey's like remembers, oh, you always have to shoot him in the head, goes back in,
pulls out his special ghost face killing bullet. Seemingly.
Yeah, puts in his special ghost face killing bullets, and then gets got for real, because when they stab Dewey, they're usually just like stab him and then leave him there. This time she like stabs him. She cuts him open like a can opener.
Yeah, awful.
It's awful.
Brutal.
And then just waits for him to die. Just like, I know what's up. And then leaves him there. Crazy.
I don't know, the way it was framed and like how much build up there was to it, and him like walking back and like flicking the gun and everything. It was very like ceremonious. You knew it was about to happen. Yeah. But he had like a very, in my mind, proper and respectful send off for how much people care about his character, and he died sacrificing himself for people that he didn't even know.
Yeah.
But that's who he is. That's what and it just completed his character arc. I mean, there was nowhere else to go with him if he didn't die in my opinion, if he didn't die in the movie. And that did contribute to the idea that the stakes are really high in this one, and they're not afraid to kill off people that you're really close with.
Yeah. And honestly, I gotta say, this one gets me way more than Han Solo. It's like more meaningful because he's actually a better figure throughout all of these movies. Is a better like support figure for everyone.
Yeah, very consistent.
Yeah, he's like one of the saddest ones.
I cried, not gonna lie.
His poor sister gets killed by a garage door in the first one. Yeah. And he's just had to live with that his whole life.
Like, I was like, oh my god, and I kind of prepared I was like, I know at least one of them's gonna die. I feel like it's most likely Dewey. And then the scene, like, immediately following that, when it went into slow motion and Gale, like, realized it was him, and, like, the musical score behind it was just so sad. And that's when I was just like, it wrecked me. I was so sad. I was crying. And then, like, Sydney showed up, and they had their moment together. That was so sweet. And they acted, like, especially Courtney Cox. These movies parallel her life and David Arquette's life so much.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I mean, I know they're still close in real life as far as, like, friends go, and they have a daughter and stuff together. And so, I mean, she was literally saying goodbye in cinema world to her best friend, like she says or later on in the movie. And so I'm sure there was a lot of like real life emotion behind that. And
Yeah.
she's not going to be on set with him anymore in like these movies and stuff. And that was like a big chapter of their lives that is close now. That was a really beautiful way of sending him off.
I mean, I agree that it was the thing to do and that it was really well done. It was still hard. It still felt like Randy in number
for
2.
Sure, yeah.
Where you're like, oh, it feels wrong. Like, they shouldn't have done it. But I also think they should have.
Because Dewey is... Sidney, Gale, and Dewey are Scream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now he's gone.
And I also think it's a testament to how this movie works that Dewey died for these new characters and we don't sort of resent them for that, you know?
Yeah, we like them.
Yeah.
Especially the sisters. I thought the sisters they had such a great dynamic together.
Yeah.
I believed them. Especially, I felt so badly for Tara. Everything she goes through at the beginning of the movie, and then this poor girl like trying to get away from Ghostface in a wheelchair. And she has a boot on one of her legs, and I was like, "Y'all leave her alone." My God.
Yeah.
So I thought that was as soon as he got in the car with Sam, I was like, I think it's over for our boy, and he's going to go out in a blaze of glory, and he did.
I've got to say in this scene that I knew it was Richie when Ghostface just lightly slashed his arm and then pushed him away.
Uh-huh.
That's, I feel like, one of the tropes of this movie is like whoever gets the non-lethal treatment by Ghostface
Yeah.
is the other Ghostface.
See, I thought they were doing a Scream 2 situation, though, where they sliced Derek's arm, the boyfriend, and just left him, and then everyone suspects the boyfriend again in the sequel, and then he ends up not being a part of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That was very and it was the same arm and everything, like how he got sliced, like how Derek got sliced. I thought that was an interesting little callback. So I just thought they were going in that direction again.
Yeah.
Watching it a second time when you know it's Richie and Amber.
Ugh.
I mean, there's so many things all the way through, like all of these movies. Like, they do such a good job of being little murder mysteries. But in this scene, when Richie has seen Dewey kill Ghostface, thinks that he has just seen his actual girlfriend get murdered. Like, the look on his face, like, when he's on the floor looking at Dewey doing it, before Dewey, like, picks him up and shoves him into the elevator. It's very telling.
I didn't even think about that. I like when Richie and Amber are going back and forth with each other, like, well, you were watching Netflix, and, well, how about you're the killer? It said it was your phone. And I'm like, it literally was her phone, though. Like, she was literally the one calling. That's why it says Amber Freeman. I'm like, it's so obvious, but it also isn't. That's what's so clever about it. That's just so smart.
Yeah.
We also skipped what I think Thor called last time, which is that Martha Meeks comes back.
Told ya. Hey.
Damn.
Yeah. Loved that.
But both her kids survived, which was shocking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My man did get stabbed in the, like, femoral artery, so I was like, okay, sure. But I like him. I'm glad he made it. He wasn't like your typical, like, jock, like, you know what I mean, like, character. He was actually, like, funny, and I liked him. I'm glad he made it through.
I liked both of them a lot, especially Mindy. I think
for
Mindy
sure. She was so good.
Is a real standout in this movie. And she is sort of the only one, like, she is playing Randy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In a way that is so fun. And she's sort of the only one of the new cast who is doing that. And I think it works because Randy is no longer in the movie, but is, like, his legacy is so sweet in her.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls it right away, too. I want to say that the movie obviously talks about this, but Dewey immediately calls that Richie is the killer and calls where they can find the other killer in her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Mindy immediately calls the motivation of the villains that, like, they've set up this kind of movie and are trying to make source material for this kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, good work.
Damn.
I liked when Wes, the Judy Hicks' son, when he was like, oh crap, my mom's one of the characters. She's like, no one cares about the sequels, you're fine. I just thought that was funny because so many people, you know, crap on sequels all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like out the next scene, him and his mom.
Yeah. Damn.
There's another line about the stabs too, where don't they say like the series went off the rails in the fifth one?
Yes, I thought that was cool. And in the fourth movie, the like triple opening, when it becomes the real opening and the two girls are sitting there, she says, "Stab 5 features time travel, which is by far the worst one." And so they've like constantly crapped on the fifth one. I thought that was a little callback there.
That's fun.
I'd be interested to see. I want that Stab Blu-ray box set that was up on the mantle. I'd love to see all 8 of these. I think that'd be fun.
Let's see. Okay, so they escape the hospital only to realize they have to turn around for the inhaler. They have to go back into the house. The boyfriend is like, no, we can't go back. I've almost got you in my clutches. And they have to go back into the house. They kick out all the rest of the people partying there. And then one by one, the friends that we've made along the way are stabbed off until finally, a big reveal. It's Amber. She just shoots that one girl right in the face.
That part is so cool.
That part is wild.
That other girl, I've also got to say, is one of the characters who really gets nothing to do.
Yeah.
She did
the girlfriend, who I don't remember the actress's name, but I read that she is a French pop star.
This is her first movie. This is her only movie she's been in.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sonia Amar. Yeah.
Mindy was like, "You're way too boring to be a suspect or whatever," and I was like, they're just gonna go with that because they just made her boring. Well, and she was also, I noticed, the only character that did not have any connection to any other previous person. And so I'm curious if that's what made her the boring one, because she was the only one that had nothing to do with it. I looked up her last name. Character's last name is Mackenzie. In the first movie, when the parents find Casey's body, the dad tells the mom, drive down to the Mackenzies. And so I'm curious if she's supposed to be like a child, and maybe she grew up knowing Casey's mother ran over there and said everything about Casey being killed. I don't know. It just seems like, why would you give her a last name if you're not even going to say it in the movie? But in the online, it says that's her last name.
Interesting.
What about Amber? Does she have any familial connection, or is it just that she lives in the Stew's house?
Yeah, not that I could find. It just said that they bought the house and she had been obsessed with it. Yeah, I liked how Amber revealed herself, because that's like, I think that's the first time the killer has revealed themselves willingly without the mask on and to a group of people instead of just Sydney or whoever. Yeah, she just was like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you now. It's me. And then shoots that girl right in the face. Like, oh my God. And
it's a real power move.
Fairly early on, too. There was still a half an hour of the movie left after she did that.
Yeah. It's also her and Richie are the two who make everyone leave the party. Specifically. Yes. They're the ones who evacuate.
And she, earlier in the movie, when they first visit Tara in the hospital, she's the last one to leave. And she's like, do you have your extra inhaler? Tara's like, oh yeah. And then I guess assumed that's the one that Richie pocketed. So they'd have to go to Amber's house.
Dastardly.
Damn.
Yeah. And then they leave the hospital room. Judy makes them leave the hospital room together when they're like, you're the killer, you watch Netflix. And then they're like, come on. And they walk outside, I would assume to presumably plan what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
So anyways, Amber is revealed as killer number 1.
She's revealed. And then, in short order, the boyfriend is revealed as killer number 2. Uh-oh, should have known. It's always the boyfriend. Then we get Gail and Sydney coming in, guns blazing, basically rescue everybody when things seem worst off. And at the last moment, the ghost of Skeet Ulrich speaks to young Sam, and she stabs her former boyfriend in the face, and then several more times in the chest.
It. Yeah. So great.
Yeah.
And then shoots him in the head like 3 times.
And wipes the knife with her bare hand.
Yeah.
Because she's a psycho, and I love it.
She does the ghost face knife wipe.
So great. She was, looking good throughout the whole movie, and then I was like, that's my woman. I was like, she's so cool. I love her.
I love her too. And it's such a cool, ending to that arc. She doesn't do anything evil, but she does use her legacy to help her out.
Yeah.
In a way that is, I think a little more powerful than maybe just totally ignoring it and changing your last name and never talking about it.
Yeah. And it's like a strange way of empowering the fact that that's not necessarily confirmed, but may or may not be struggling with some sort of mental illness or something.
Right. She's got the pills.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting way to approach that with her.
It also reminds me a lot of Tommy Jarvis at the end of the fourth Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that was cool.
Like, who goes psycho on Jason and finally kills him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then inexplicably, a film that was released a year later, he's like 10 years older, and they don't even explain that.
They don't know.
So that movie took place in the 90s, apparently. Had to. Anyways, Scream 2022.
Yeah, truly. Then a flaming Amber comes back in for one last jump scare kill, and young Tara dead shot right in the face.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then in a scene reminiscent of both the first and second Halloweens, they get into an ambulance and go off to a different hospital as she asks to be taken to.
And there's another news reporter wearing Gale Weathers' outfit from the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Reporting on the news, very similar to the ending shot of the first one.
And that it ties back into what you said at the beginning when we started. She says almost 25 years to the day, and the movie was released almost 25 years to the day also.
Wow.
I thought that was cool.
A nice little moment in the final battle is when Sydney and Gale are like coming up to the house, and Amber comes out pretending to be a victim to like try and fool them, and they immediately know.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a nice little arc from the first one where I think it's Randy and Stu, or there's one scene where like Sydney has come back to the house and it's one of the innocent guys and the killer, and they're both trying to like prove to her that they're innocent, and she can't tell.
Yeah.
By this point, she knows.
Mm-hmm. I loved that.
I want to talk about the meta stuff here just for a couple minutes. I know we're starting to run short on time. Okay, so the Stab movies are like the in-universe depictions of what has happened in the Scream movies. And that's a big part of this one.
Mm-hmm.
So early in the movie, we hear what seems like a funny incidental detail, which is that Rian Johnson directed the 8th Stab movie, which was just called Stab, like how this movie is just called Scream. And it was like very polarizing. It didn't have the legacy characters in it. It like questioned a lot of the franchise's ethos, and then like the whole franchise went in a meltdown, and it like destroyed the internet.
Huh. That doesn't remind me of anything from the real world.
The cultural context of this is that Rian Johnson directed Star Wars The Last Jedi, which was Star Wars 8, similar to Stab 8.
Mm-hmm. That
sort of like questioned some things that were in the franchise, was like a big boiling over point in the fandom. And that I heard like the writers of this movie talking about how like people also went against him very personally, like started talking about his personality and like direct attacks at him on Twitter over like how much they hated this movie. So it basically like broke the internet. Last Jedi, I would say, had much more of a divide between people loving it and people hating it. We don't hear a ton of pro Stab 8 in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But when that's introduced, it just seems like a funny little side, like a film by Robert Rodriguez in Scream 2. Mm-hmm. But then at the end, it is revealed that Richie in real life is like a huge fan of the Stab franchise who hated Stab 8. That Amber got into it when her parents bought the house, that they met on Reddit on the message board of like the Stab series, and have like done this whole thing to create what they think would be a better Stab sequel to be the source material for it, which is just like kind of incredible and ties back to a real life thing that there is like a whole subreddit and a lot of YouTube channels, because they also go after movie YouTubers in this movie, dedicated to like people who hate The Last Jedi. And there was this huge fan petition movement for Disney to remake The Last Jedi according to a script that like they had written, and like strike the original one from canon. So that's sort of like all of the stuff that's going on here.
I like The Last Jedi.
I do too.
I thought it was interesting.
This movie likes The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and it tried different stuff, and I liked that one, and this one tried different stuff. I thought that was cool. I don't know, I love all the like pot shots at things, and the whole fact that the first movie was partly inspired by real life murders that took place in Florida.
Right.
Not that, they didn't have like the mask and all that sort of thing, but yeah, just like going from that and like toning down the violence of the third one as a result of like the school shootings and stuff that were going on in like 2000. I don't know. I think that brings like an interesting real life element into that idea of we're going to stage this whole in-universe real life murder spree, so they'll create a movie out of it, which is what actually happened. That's what started the entire Scream franchise in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. There's also at the very end when Amber's like pleading for her life, she's like, I was radicalized. Hey, it's not my fault. I was online. It was like, the internet made me do it.
Wanted to be a part of something. She
Yeah.
says. Which is obviously her saying what people have said to like try and make sense of these people, you know? Like she does not believe that.
Yeah. No, and it's very clear she doesn't.
And I feel like in a world where like we have seen people, not Star Wars fans, but like radicalize online and go and storm the Capitol, try and kill the vice president, I feel like that line is a reference to there is so much sort of like hand wringing and like trying to understand the other side and like looking at like how these people behave and making excuses. And I feel like it is just okay to like say some people are bad people, you know? Which that is a reference to. I'm not saying if you don't like The Last Jedi, you're a bad person. But I'm saying these characters who are killing people, like, it is okay to say they're bad people and not that they were radicalized by Reddit and 4chan, as they say.
I mean, which is ultimately what the first one boils down to, is like, they never land on any one reason why they did it. They just wanted to kill people. And they say, like, these movies don't make psychos. They just make psychos more creative, which I think is... kind of also what the internet does.
Brings psychos together.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also think that Richie has a bunch of very fun lines that are very similar to a lot of things you read online after he's been revealed, including the great one, the How Can Fandom Be Toxic? It's about love. But it's also funny because then it sort of casts his character before that he is sort of like acting as what he thinks Sam would want, or like what he thinks people expect out of characters nowadays. Who is like clearly not who he really is, which you see at the very end. You know, he's like a 20-something dating a 17-year-old. So,
yeah, it's a problem. It's kind of like, whoa, okay.
yeah. Well, so is the killing people. So,
yeah. There's lots of issues they need to talk about.
All right. Best skill, Thor?
I guess Dewey. So sad, but yeah.
Wade?
I think Wes through the neck.
Yeah.
Oof.
What about you on it?
When the cop lady, Officer Judy, is running to the door, and then you think it's like she's going to come in and see her son getting attacked, and then he just steps out and stabs her. That's pretty brutal. That one got me. That got me good.
In the daylight.
And she is so careful, too. And then just, like, goes totally frantic crazy when she hears that her son is in danger.
MVP? OTP? I don't know. There's a lot of people to take off the table, potentially, so we're just going to take Sam off.
MVP? Mindy.
She's great.
Wade?
Okay, yeah. I think on screen it would also be Mindy. But my overall MVP I'm going to give to Roger L. Jackson as the voice of Ghostface.
Ooh.
I think he's really good in this.
Yeah.
Especially that opening, like, 5-minute sequence where he's not doing the Ghostface voice at first. But it's in there a little bit and you're kind of like, is that him? And then it gets more and more like him.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, I think he's really good in this movie. Emmett, MVP?
I'm going to go with Tara.
Hey.
Okay.
I did not think she was going to live past the first scene. When I did, I said, I'm with her for the rest of the movie. I wish there had been more of her in the hospital and that it turned more into a Halloween 2 scenario. She's, to me, like the more interesting of the two sisters. Her older sister being a psycho badass who comes in and saves her is cool. But I think if she'd done more defending herself, that would have been fun too. And when she goes after the girl with the crutches, it's very satisfying.
That's like her previous best friend with her freaking inhaler at her house.
For real.
Yeah. I thought at the beginning that they were supposed to be more than friends when she's texting her about coming over for dinner, like my place tonight, and then you see Amber like getting ready, and she's like, "I've got the wine cabinet unlocked." That's what I thought we were supposed to think at first, but then
maybe that is true. I don't know. She was very overprotective of her. Amber was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Jenna Ortega playing Tara.
Yeah, shout out to her. I think something that, like, having watched all of the Friday the 13th especially, something that has been missing in a lot of those was, like, any sort of empathy or, like, identification with any of the characters who are in danger. But I feel like that's what I got a lot of from both sisters and from the twins, from the Meeks twins. I got that, like, characters that I cared about, vulnerability, and just, like, people who seemed, like, cool and fun that you would want to hang out with. I think, like, a lot of slashers do the thing where they, like, make them assholes so that you care less and so that it doesn't matter as much when they get killed off. But Scream doesn't do that. It doesn't pull punches, and it's like, no, he will care about these people.
It respects the archetypes of characters, but also respects the characters in general, not just who they're supposed to be, but who they eventually are, made by the performance.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay, final thoughts and updated ranking of the Scream series.
My ranking is the original one, 2 and 5 tied, closely followed by the fourth one and then the third one. I think it's a very welcome return to form, but also in a way that wasn't a return to form. I like the old elements that it brought back, and then the new things it introduced were very interesting and clever, especially for a 2022 audience. I think it's easy for a casual moviegoer to watch and still enjoy, but provides a lot more richness for people who are big fans of the franchise. And if they choose to take it anywhere further, I'm excited to see where that is. Just leave Sydney and Gail out of it. Let them be in peace, please. Bring back Kirby and let her be the mentor for the next one. Go with that.
Cool.
Yeah. Kirby, Sam, and Tara taking on a new ghost face in number 6.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
Wade?
Updated ranking would be number 1, Scream. Number 2, Scream. 2022. Number 3, Scream 4. Number 4, Scream 2. Number 5, Scream 3. I think this very comfortably rose to my second favorite. I don't think it has better sequences than Scream 2 or maybe even Scream 4. I would have to rewatch Scream 4 to really say about that. I'd say it's maybe like the 4th best directed, which isn't really an insult because Wes Craven is such a good director. But I think like what this movie is saying, I was so surprised and loved so much. Also that it manages to give like those really big crowd-pleasing moments. I think I probably would have, like, I just think it's juggling a lot. Like Stu's cousin, who is around for 5 minutes and then gets killed. That's a cool scene, but like we don't care about him at all and then he gets killed. So if we could have taken some of that time and given it to like characterizing the twins or the girlfriend more to make us like invested in that stuff. Maybe even the Judy West, like I could see a movie where they're not in this movie and that is spent more on other original characters. But I really like the movie we've got, and I want to give a shout out to Francis. Okay, and then future, I could see one world where this is like the start of a new trilogy that we get very close together, similar to the original trilogy, and I would be excited about that. I think also leave Sydney and Gail out of it, maybe bring them back for like a big one down the line, if that's the case.
Yes.
But I could also see one where it's another 11 years, and then we check back in like the last two.
And they're going on 60.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, in every now and then when there's a good idea, we check back in and make fun of whatever's happening right now. So I would be happy either way. But yeah, really impressed by this. Emmett?
Okay, I'm going to say Scream 2, Scream 2022, Scream 4, and then Scream 3. That's how I would rank them, I believe. I still love the sequences of Scream 2. I think it's so much fun. I think it's the hypest of all of them, the second one. And the original obviously can't be topped. This is an excellent installment. I agree with Wade about having like more time spent on the development of the new characters could have been beneficial. I also think I like that we kept some of them alive, but I don't know that they all needed to survive. You know, especially
Right.
if you're not going to spend that much time developing them as characters. You could have spent more time, I don't know, on one and then killed the other one off or something.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I like this movie. As a series, it is really interesting because of its ability for the killer to keep coming back without having to do dumb resurrection stuff on a single character. I do think that's what like keeps it fresh. I think it would be really cool if they did a couple of sequels right now, if they have good ideas. But I think like a big challenge about that is that like the trends that they tend to make fun of are trends that take like 5 years to emerge in films.
Yeah.
And like they've mined a lot of the current thing. It would be hard for it to like remain timely without repeating itself, but they may be able to do it. And I think it would be exciting to see.
What do you think the title of a 6th Scream movie would be? If part 5 is also called Scream.
Scream Legacy.
I think it would be called Scream 2, A New Scream.
Scream 2 2024.
Yeah.
Scream dies tonight.
No, shut up. I hate that.
All right. Well, that's everybody's last thoughts on this, which it is for me. I have no further thoughts on this. I think they're all excellent. I really do. After having watched a lot of those other films, I do think this is like top of the genre stuff. While I love Halloween and Halloween 2, I think this is more fun. I think each of these has a little bit of levity that breaks it up, the constant tension of those older slasher films. All right, but now we are going to take it to the quiz, which today I have called the I Scream, You Scream, We All Scream for Sponsorship quiz. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to get sponsored by Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So I have come up with a quiz. Can you spot the fake ice cream name? We've got 10 wild-ass flavors that are from real life, and for each one, I have made up a fake name to go along with it. You'll have to pick which one is real and which one is fake. First, I'll just read you the names, and if you need extra help determining, I can read you the blurb from the website describing the flavor. Are you ready?
Have you made all of those up as well?
No, I'll just have one description of the flavor, and you'll have to describe. You'll have to pick.
Okay.
You know which name it truthfully describes.
Okay.
All right. Question 1. The name could be Poppers and Nuts, or Peanuts Popcorn with an exclamation point after both peanuts and popcorn.
It has to be the second one, right?
They do like their exclamation marks in the Ben & Jerry's, but I'm going to go with Poppers and Nuts.
So Thor's correct with peanuts and popcorn. Wait, that's incorrect. Poppers and Nuts is a fake name.
I can't imagine how.
All right. Next question. Peanut butter and jelly, or Peeber and the Jays?
What?
I'm going to go with peanut butter and jelly.
I really want it to be Peeber and the Jays.
Yeah, Wade, you got that correct. It is peanut butter and jelly. Number 3.
But Bieber and the Jays is the name of your next album. Isn't that correct, Emmett?
It is. That's correct.
That's the name of this trio. We're gonna have our barbershop trio.
Number 3. Ho-ho cake or Boston cream pie?
I feel like I've heard that Boston cream pie is real before.
Yeah, I'm gonna do Boston cream pie.
All right, you're both correct. It is Boston cream pie. That is a real flavor of ice cream. Wavy gravy or groovy smoothie?
They both sound horrible.
Can I describe? Can I describe to you what this ice cream has in it?
Okay.
Really, any flavor inspired by a politically active clown ought to be weird. Part of a flavor era inspired by actual nuts, this ice cream delivered an odd but evocative combo of cashew, Brazil nut ice cream with a chocolate hazelnut fudge swirl, and roasted almonds. And it lasted for 8 years.
Groovy smoothie.
I'm gonna go with Wavy Gravy then.
That's a point for Wade.
For real?
For Wavy Wade. All right. Number 5. Can't say either of these names without laughing. Fatty Carbuncle or Chubby Hubby?
These both sound real. That's a good call.
Fatty Carbuncle.
Chubby Hubby.
Wade, that's another point to you.
Dang it!
Chubby Hubby is a real flavor.
Wow.
Next question. We've got Urban Jumble or Sweet Streets?
Urban Jumble.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one.
All right, you both get a point there. Urban Jumble lasted from 2000 to 2001. And it was a bizarre amalgamation of coconut almond fudge chip and New York super fudge chunk.
Wow. What could be better?
What could be better? All right, next flavor on the list here. Pears before swine or au pair?
Au pair.
Does this have pork in it? Did you declare that?
Yes, it is a pear and maple bacon flavored ice cream. No, just kidding. It does not have pork in it.
I guess I'll go with au pair as well.
All right, you're both getting a point there. Question number 8. We have Dastardly Mash and Mashta Bader.
Oh my god. Dastardly Mash.
I'll agree.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I can't imagine why.
Number 9. Ms. Cassie's sweet potato casserole or Miss Helena's sweet potato pie?
Helena, sweet potato pie.
I'll go with casserole.
All right, Thor, that's a point to you. For number 10.
Okay.
Sweaty balls or dipping nuts?
Wait, I feel like sweaty balls is correct. I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely heard that in some context before.
I don't know, or like maybe on SNL or something. I'm going with that one. I also feel like I've seen it at the store.
I'm gonna go with whatever the other one is. I don't remember.
Sweaty balls is correct.
Yes.
Thor, you have officially probably won the quiz. I don't know. I wasn't keeping track.
I think it was 7-7. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, then it's a good round tie. Handshakes and back pats for everyone. I need to go get some of that good Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That's right, ladies. Cinema Bums. Sponsored by Ben & Jerry's. When you're in the mood for some really expensive but really interesting ice cream, it's always there at the dollar store for $8 a pint.
Yes, Ben & Jerry's. What could be better than Ben & Jerry's?
Ice cream called Sweaty Balls.
Please go to benandjerrys.com/cinemabums pod@gmail.com/scream2022 to receive 5 cents off your next pint of Ben & Jerry's.
Other than your Ben & Jerry's plug, or is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners about?
Where can the people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Jonathan Thor Rains. I plan on seeing the movie 8 times because they talk about Stab 8 in the movie, and I've already envisioned the Instagram caption, so here we are. We're halfway there. 4 times.
Wow.
True
dedication.
Incredible.
Hey, shout out. Hey, we can also get sponsored by Regal Crown Club. Thank you for allowing me to have a membership monthly so I don't have to pay money every time to see a film. I only have to pay $19 a month. It's worth it. Thank you, Regal.
That does sound worth it.
Thank you, Regal. Please go to regal.com/cinemabums/Jonathan Thor Rains to receive free trial. Crown Club.
To an upgrade for a small popcorn.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. In 27 weeks, join us as we talk about Jordan Peele's Nope. Till then, you'll just have to be content with that other thing we're doing next week when we talk about Boy, Taika Waititi's second film. Lovely having you here with us today, Thor.
Yes.
Thank you. Y'all have brought light to this rainy afternoon. Truly a wonderful time. Anytime we get together and talk about the Stab, Scream films, I think we should write like not a sequel, but like a spoof, but like a serious spoof.
You mean like Scream?
Yeah. Well, have a lovely rest of your day, gents and listeners. Thank you as ever for listening to us. Happy New Year, and stay frosted out there. Cinema Bums is a production of DKG Podcasts. It is created and produced by Wade Lawrence Holloman and me, Emmett Temple. Wade also edits and mixes the podcast. Our theme music is by Zane Holloman, who you can find on Bandcamp, and our show art is by Autumn Beckner. Our social media is managed by Laura Bennett. If you like what you hear, please tell all your friends and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, the 2 best ways to spread the word about our work. You can also follow us on Instagram @CinemaBums or email us at cinemabumspod@gmail.com. Don't flake on us. We'll be back next week.